want to say welcome back to the To Be Fair Show. I am your host, Johnny P.
Over here, real.
It's cute.
And we back.
Yes, sir.
Got the fellas in here. Got a few, topics. What we doing? Memes of the week.
We can
What,
do
what,
that.
what you got for us, Q?
I don't really necessarily have a meme. I think this would be a good conversation to get into. A conversation about emotional intelligence. Where I think that maybe over emotional intelligence in males with emotional intelligence and kind of working through and understanding, getting better at that. I say that because I feel like within maybe like the past 2 weeks, maybe like it was like a situation. It wasn't even necessarily a situation, but I could feel like my levels kind of like being on and off a little bit or whatever. And I took the time to kind of like I noticed it, and I was like, I feel a little bit snappy, or I feel a little bit like withdrawn a little bit, but I couldn't really figure out exactly what was the root of it, and it took me a second, it took me a couple of days or whatnot, and it kind of led me to that whole thing of like working on building my emotional intelligence. That'll be one. And then just how important that is because if you're not able to really identify your moods, a lot of times you can end up going off the cliff on somebody and projecting on somebody that it really isn't pushed towards. And then you really don't end up getting to the root of whatever the actual issue is. And it could be something really minute, it could be something really big. But actually being able to feel your emotions, go through your emotions, understand your emotions, digest them, and deal with them. I think that that's a really huge thing that we don't necessarily talk about a lot. I don't know what y'all think.
No, that's a big one. I've had to deal with a situation this week, something similar as far as family, was having a discussion, got a little heated. You know how it goes, voices get elevated. What they call your temper, get to going, shit gets said.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a situation where, like you say, tapping into that emotional intelligence stuff I've been learning over the last couple of years. I had to walk away. I walked away. I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I also, you know, understood where I was at. I'm probably gonna fire off right now. I'm gonna fire off. So I stepped to, walked away, took a few minutes, realized the conversation wasn't over. Still needed, and then I went back and we finished the conversation. And you know, ultimately, some stuff like that, you might have to have 2 or 3 conversations. But that was something I was, a little proud of myself because I walked, I felt like me going back because a lot of times I'll just walk away and shut down and that'd be it. But then after I did that, I was like, all right. And then I went back and we finished the conversation. So sometimes, like you said, I've said that before. Sometimes before you make a stupid decision, sometimes it's best to, walk away, gather your thoughts, because when you're emotional, you're not gonna make a logical decision. If you're in an emotional state, your decision making is not gonna be the best, and that's when you end up, doing stuff you regret, saying stuff you can't take back, and shit like that. So that's a big one. It's something we all need to work on, and feel like we should all try to get better at it for sure. It helps.
Right. And I know you about to kind of, but I also would like to say, even inside that, I also don't think that it's a negative thing to experience your emotions either. To where it's not trying to, and I'm not sure if like you specifically were saying that, not saying that, but like the idea of like suppressing your emotions so I can make this said logical decision. Sometimes it's good to be
Right.
able to digest your emotions and then understand why you're making decisions. Plural. I don't know, real. How you feel?
Man, I agree. I agree. I feel like this is that's a part of my life. Has been a part of my life. I mean, I think relationships have that dynamic to it. You know what I mean? No, think that's a fact. Relationships have that dynamic to it. Work has that dynamic to it. Just family life, all of that. I mean, so I think that it's. I guess it's more of some way of finding a balance uh, in between, like when it is when to vocalize how you feel and when not to, because it's not always the thing to do. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I think if I'm for me in my personal life, the best decision is not always for me to start speaking. You know what I mean? So for me, I generally try to I generally, my first, like you say, your first instinct is shut down. My first instinct is also to just get quiet. I don't like to say when people say shut down. I don't really like that shut down thing because it's almost like taken away from the ability to show restraint. it discounts the ability to show restraint when people say you shut down. Like I know that I don't have anything good to say that's going to push the conversation in a positive way, so I choose not to say anything at the moment. So that's not necessarily a negative thing, because that's generally how if I know that what you about to make me say is going to make things go further left, and yeah, so I mean, and then also if I can't find a way to articulate it in a way that's not going to make it go left, it's best for me not to speak. Go ahead.
So I guess building on that, in which I think that you framed that really well. Do you do well at identifying in the moment your emotion and how you're feeling, how something can make you feel? So like you said, I think you gave examples of like work, relationship. I think in relationships, that's often a really hard. I know for me, I'll speak for me. It's something to identify that it doesn't necessarily have to be an overt action that can make me feel a specific way, but I can eventually like feel like I don't feel right now. And sometimes I know I'm not readily able to identify that off the bat. Like it takes a little processing. Sometimes it might take me a day or two.
Are you speaking of like times where you just don't you just don't feel away? Nothing happened specific, and you just don't feel
like
as you normally would.
There's a root of something.
I think that,
and it's like, damn, am I angry? Am I upset?
I think that's very human, bro. It's not like it's a human experience not
no,
to be
sure.
at 100% every day, and it doesn't have to be anything that necessarily just triggers it. It's just that's just a natural thing. And that's just my opinion. I feel like it's just a natural thing. Like you're gonna come some days, you know what I mean? You're gonna have that mode where you don't want to be as talkative. And it ain't nothing that nobody did. You just don't feel it. This is just not my day. Like, and it's okay. And the thing is, I think that people have to be more accepting of it and stop looking at people like they're like it's not that big a deal. Like if I don't feel like talking, like it shouldn't be a thing. Or if I just let me just, you know what I mean? If you can ask if I'm okay. If I'm okay, just. It's just a natural thing.
Well,
I
the
think.
big one too is
Probably got to do with diet and all kind of things.
with emotional intelligence, also something I've been, working on. I got another point I want to hit on too, but like when like dealing with like brothers, your family, your friends, relationships, all of that. Like a lot of time people take the actions of others personally, and I might get mad because you were feeling the way, and like you say, the shutdown maybe withdrawn. You withdrew a little bit, and then I'm trying to, and then I don't get the same rail I'm always used to. Then I get the feeling the way, where it's nothing I did or said or anything, but it's, people go through stuff, and a lot of times people's actions ain't necessarily a reflection of you or it's personal to you, but it's people go through stuff, and you gotta also understand how to not only navigate your emotions and your emotional ebbs and flows, and when you're up, when you're down, but also the same way you have everybody else have them. So if you're high, somebody else is low, and y'all come in contact, that interaction might not be the same as it is when both of y'all are high. Or conversely, a lot of times people meet when they're both at the low points. And then that's when you get that trauma bonding, you get toxic behavior, negative positive reinforcement of negative behaviors, because y'all both meeting, when you're low vibrations. So I think it's also good to understand everybody. Well, just put a perspective on, emotional intelligence and emotion, the way those go, because it's not just you; it affects everybody.
I wanted
to hit on something you just said real quick, Jeremy. How you was talking about basically like sometimes it don't be nothing, and you don't I think it's always something. Like if you feel that type of way, there's an underlying reason, and I think it's important to figure it out. But I do understand the sentiment of it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to be human.
I think, yeah.
And I think that's where the emotional the emotional intelligence comes from. Even if you are feeling that way, you need to recognize why is it that you're feeling that way, so you can actually do something about that in the future. Because that can go further.
And that's not easy. And
it's not easy.
I know with me, it could take 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Before I actually like, this is the thing that kind of triggered that a little bit.
So what did you figure out it was?
So let me think. I think that more recently, I think maybe this is like a week or two ago, and this is like relationship based, in which I think it was like some small action that happened, that it wasn't like a very intentional thing. It was just like something that happened between me and my partner, in which, and maybe I'm trying to think back exactly what it was. I think maybe it's like the ebb and flow of a relationship.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you might not be doing something the same as you used to, or as much as you used to.
Yeah.
And me processing that, I knew I felt the way. But to me, before I speak, I want to understand what I feel. So then I can actually articulate it, and then we can get to like a solution space to it. So it took me a second of like, I know I feel a kind of way, but I can't readily identify what said thing is. And then once I was like, all right, cool. I've kind of like drilled at it enough to where I kind of figured it out, expressed it, said it, got it off, and I was cool. It wasn't even like a real big thing. This wasn't. Go ahead.
So I just have a question. So what was it that when you say your levels were off? What was that more like? Was it like a? What were the physical? Let's say.
So I guess inside the communication, I was a little bit more withdrawn.
Okay,
I was a little bit more to myself. I kind of like. I wouldn't say I had an attitude, but it was like a little edge to me.
Gotcha.
I might have been like more snappy, maybe be the word. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, I'm obviously doing this. Yeah. It's not necessarily intentional. But I know there's a feeling that I haven't touched on that I need to figure out. And it's specifically pointed towards this person. So I have to figure out this thing.
Yeah.
And like, that's where I'm going with like emotional. I know for me, sometimes it might take a second to figure out if I'm angry or if I'm like upset or if I'm like exactly even what the emotion is for me to like dive through it. And where, again, I don't think that I have high emotional intelligence. I'll just try and take my time to try and find through it. But I'm working on being able to identify quicker what said things are so we can get to better solutions quicker. Yeah.
Can I add something? I feel what y'all saying, but it's like, I feel like emotional intelligence, like the experience I've been having with it, because, it's been some changes going on in my life as well. And like how Real spoke on like relationships and everything, I feel like part of what I'm learning now is that with my emotional intelligence, it's almost like I realize that my patience has grown a lot stronger now that I'm 32, but my tolerance level for certain things is almost at zero now. So many things that I was just, y'all know me for years. I'm really that quiet dude that everybody's like, is something wrong with him or is something not wrong? He seemed cool, but is he mad? Is he? And then I just don't feel like talking. But then now I see how not communicating that through all these years has made it to where I don't have tolerance for anything now. So it's like I don't care if I come off as a nice guy or a mean guy or whatever at this point. I mean, I got patience to see how a situation could play out, but I don't have tolerance for stuff I used to allow myself to be taken advantage of or...
So do you see that as emotional intelligence or like your growth as a man? Where to me with that sounds like more so is like you being able to stand on like your square of understanding like, hey, I actually have my boundaries and there's certain shit that I'm just not really for tolerating. Yeah. Per se. In the past where I could have let that be something that would upset me, that would trigger me, that would make me kind of like be a little bit more withdrawn. But now I understand that like I'm at a point where I'm solid in who I am as a man to where I understand that these aren't things that I'm interested in allowing to happen.
Yeah, like I had to tell my mom, like, I think it was yesterday morning, and I was just talking with her about the situation I'm in or whatever, and of course she knows firsthand, like with my son and everything. And then it's like, I thought about every time I have a conversation like I'm so quiet that when I finally do talk, nobody really knows what to expect because I've been sitting there quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
But I used to despise when people be like, nah, man, you just thinking about it too deep, man, or you thinking about it too hard. And I had to tell my mom, like, and I never really got mad off of something she said. I wasn't really mad at her, but it was like you were saying, it was something where it's like I got a little edge to me, and I feel like I need to say this right now because I was like, I'm really starting to despise that statement at this point because I'm not thinking too deep if you're not thinking far enough. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm talking about if I'm talking about the whole entire picture and you're only talking about it as far enough as it benefits you or where it puts you at the end of the day, and you don't understand, then that means that you're not thinking as far as I'm thinking. You're not even thinking about everything. You're only thinking about what pertains to you. And that's the type of thing that I'm saying where the tolerance for that is low, but I have enough patience to at least say, okay, I don't feel good about this, but I'm still about to explain this and take whatever time it takes to get that point across to who I'm talking to.
It also sounds like you you getting better at like vocalizing and communicating
yeah.
that too, because that's a
Yeah.
big piece though. Because like we can feel how we feel, and everybody's entitled to their feelings. You know, it's natural, but there does come a space, and you owe it to the people around you, your friends, your family, your relationships, to be able to get to a space where you can communicate that.
I
To
think
be
that's
like,
like that to me. That's like one of the keys of the whole like emotional intelligence. What's the point of you knowing? Well, I mean, I'm gonna say what's the point of it? What benefit is it to you knowing if you can't allow
if you can't
somebody else, if you can't
communicate.
explain it, like you know what I
Right,
mean?
and that's
If I can't tell you, you know what I mean, exactly how I'm feeling, the way that you can understand. And then the one thing too, the second piece of that key or second key to this is being around people who want to be receptive
yeah.
to what you're saying
It'll
when
help
it is
promote
that
it.
you're talking about. You see what I'm
Well, yeah,
saying?
that's a big
Because
one.
it takes a lot for like I think for men in general, I think that's why it's such a big deal for like we're hearing it so much more in that male space, the emotional intelligence, because we just keep things in. I mean, it's always
Right.
we've been taught that is that's what you're supposed to do. So it's so natural to us, you know what I mean, to do that. That it's like okay, well I see that even if especially as a
Well, that's
parent, it's like that didn't benefit me. You know what I mean? That I seen my father do it. That didn't benefit me at all. I want to be a better father to my son. I want to help him to, you know what I mean? Just have a more healthy life than I did. So I have to show him that or you know what I mean? Be working on it so he can see it and I can teach it. And that'll be some fruit that I'm able to, you know what I mean? Provide to him and help him grow with, or him or her, however you want to go. But I'm just saying that the worst thing I remember, let me tell you one thing that killed me one time. Is I have anxiety, right? So, and it generally comes from me thinking about when I sit and go back over my day. I beat myself in the head about how I could have always. I feel like I always could have expressed myself a little more clear and not left as much up to interpretation. Because I hate when you know what I mean. I say something and then I guess the people don't get the intent behind it because I consider myself to be a pretty intentional person. I try to speak in straight lines. I try to be very intentional. So, and when I speak about something, I try to as best I can. And so, like when there's so much left up for grabs, I hate that. So I'll dig in myself real bad about it. I find myself pacing one time
I do that too.
back and forth in the house. It'll get to that point where I'm just in my head. I don't even really realize I'm pacing until you know what I mean. I just it kind of snaps out a little bit. But the worst thing is like when you come to someone and you're telling them how you feel about yourself in the moment, and they double down on you with that same thing that you're down on yourself about.
I'll say
Like,
the thing I hate in that same situation, and this shit irk my nerves, bro. This the one that get me, is when you come and you're vulnerable and you're just explaining about your feelings, and then the person, whoever you're talking to, they go and make it about them,
defensive.
and then they go or even start explaining their feelings,
Yeah,
and then not
yeah.
even address. You know, I done mustered up all this courage because it take a lot for a man to be like, I feel like this. You did X, Y, and Z, and it made me feel like A, B. For a man, that's not a natural thing. We ain't grow up like that. I ain't know that's something I've had to learn through trial and error. And when I do it, and I done, because a lot of times before I do it, I'm, sitting there thinking,
It's
I'm like,
premeditated like a bug.
well, it's nerves,
Yeah,
and you get
yeah.
nervous, you get anxiety, and then when I do it, and somebody just completely dismiss all my feelings and everything, and then going, well, I do this, and then that's the thing that irked my nerves. I think that's for a lot of us. That's why like something like this, it is a big deal when when guys are getting to the space that we are able to talk about our emotions, our feelings, and stuff. I think that's why a lot of the conversations we've had have been received so well. Is because it is not the normal space where you see three black men, who's sitting in. It's not normal. I don't think it's it's definitely not what's marketed out there as far as what's cool, what's the lit thing. But that's I think that's an important thing about doing that work and then coming and communicating.
It's an important part of this. It's an important part of this that I think like y'all just kind of touched on, or that we're not really touching on. That's there. As far as emotional intelligence, you have to make sure that love is involved in all of this, and that means like even with yourself, like German was just saying, like how he beat himself up. Being emotionally intelligent, that's part of the thing that a lot of us men tend to do. Like you have to find that balance of not beating yourself, still loving yourself, even though you're doing stuff, because we're gonna make mistakes. But you still gotta love yourself through that. Same as you gotta love other people that are in your life that you know you chose to love or you chose to have in your life, you have to give them that room too. Be emotionally intelligent about what they're going through.
You gotta have that grace,
Exactly.
because it's easy to be logical about yourself. I'm not here. I'm not there. The same way that that emotional intelligence can go to beating yourself up. You can use it to love yourself. I know I'm not here, but I'm a good person. I'm trying, and you can allow your emotions to provide a little bit of grace for you. At least that's what I do.
I think emotional intelligence, period, like literally, it is loving yourself and loving other people. Also, like being aware of what, like, if you love people, you're going to notice that something is wrong. Or you're going to notice when you're doing something wrong that's offending them, like all of it.
Like I done made some mistakes, but I didn't make that many.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody make mistakes. It's just no matter, you are not the sum of all your decisions. No matter where you go, you're still a person. We got soul. It's a lot more to us than what we have done. You're not just your job. You're not just who you are. There's so many more layers to people other than just what you see them doing or how they're moving. But I had one other thing I wanted to touch on. When we was earlier about when you was talking about like you have to feel your feelings or like processing certain emotions when you go through something. That's the goal. Is like you want to allow yourself in whatever moment to feel, whether it's sadness, anger, jealousy, so tons of different emotions. But if you don't actually go through it, the whole emotion, sit with it, hold it. And then once you do that, and for people it takes different, with grief it may take a little longer than anger, or some people may deal with grief longer, than other people. So it's personal, whatever you want to do. But once you do it, then you have like the obligation or the responsibility to come back and then learn how to vocalize it, or just let people know, hey, this is what I'm feeling.
Yeah, you can make yourself feel better.
Yeah, because you're able to properly identify it.
it-
And
you-
I think that's important. What you said, where, and again, like, I think the conversation to me when I drill into it is just really being able to like identify emotions and really be, like you said, really be able to sit in it. So like an example of this is like, for me, I'll take this to a basketball example. With me coaching, I get, no matter what, I get nervous before coaching any game. And because of that, I don't eat the morning before, because if I do, it's coming straight out. Like it's a reality though. And like there's a certain feeling in my stomach.
You was a puker back it.
No, I wasn't that, but I like it. No, I'm talking about like it's coming out the other way.
Oh.
But King Bubble Guts over here. Listen, I'm gonna find that bathroom over on the other side of the gym where ain't nobody at. But listen, right.
I had some boy, they used to throw up before games.
Right, no, but the reality of it is that, and me, like early on, but this is the same thing. Like it was very like exact same thing with performance. Like it's certain things that led me to identify what this emotion was that I feel, and what I would do. Like even to this day, inside those scenarios, I take a deep breath and just kind of like live in it for a second and be like, "That's what this is. It's a little jitter here. I can feel it. It's gonna stay there, but I know what it is, and eventually it's gonna calm down." And like that's something, like I said, that's almost like a monthly thing that I get put in that nervous situation, and I'm able to identify it and then process and then do something about it.
Being nervous is a good thing. Like it means you care. Especially if you about to do something, a performance. Being nervous about it means that you care that it goes well.
Yeah.
And that's something I've always like public speaking. Like I remember back in school, that used to be like my biggest fucking fear. Like I used to be like terrified about
Even as being an artist,
doing presentations and stuff. And that's one of the first places I learned to like about emotional intelligence, because like you say, I learned to embrace the nervousness.
Yeah, like it's something to kind of like take a deep breath and live in. But I bring that example up to say that, yes, I bring that example up to say that I think that's the easy emotion to identify.
Yeah,
That's
like that one is really, really easy.
Because
Like it's more physical.
The symptoms of it are very, very specific.
Right. And but my thing is like, I know that I'm trying to push myself to be able to identify like my other ranges of emotion in a similar manner, to where then I can sit, live in it, process, and then know what I need to do.
You know, I actually appreciate this conversation. Um, I appreciate this conversation because I've actually had some good days like here recently where I could say like I just had a great like I just felt good.
Yeah.
And it happened to me like it's happened to me like a couple of times a week for the past few weeks. And I never really thought about like all I would say is like I don't know what it is, but I feel good today. But it like to actually sit and try to figure out exactly what it
Just be
is.
in it, yeah.
Because if you can identify that, then I may be able to actually
Replicate it.
yeah, right. To actually make the day that way.
Or to make all the days like that.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
But you can.
I would assume that once you kind of get to that point, it'll start to.
Yeah.
You have to find another thing that kind of does it for you. But
Well, it'll
yeah,
be something else that'll switch your mood. Though.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
That's another thing. Sometimes, like, you can do something for a year and it make you feel a certain way, and then
Yeah,
it
just
just
tailor.
don't feel the same.
Yeah, I
and
think
then,
that's
and then there's a
pretty much
process where you gotta, go back to square one and just figure it out. Because we all changing. Don't nobody want to be in the same place. Next year as we were here as we are today. So as you grow, as you evolve, the different triggers for your emotions will change. Stimuli, certain stimuli will be less effectful. Some stuff becomes, more effective as far as just, getting different reactions out of you. So you got to always, it's an ongoing thing. It's not something, oh, I figured it out and I ain't got to do no more work. Because even if you figure it out, 6 months later, you going to change and you might have to re-figure it out.
And
Right. And to be able to know that, okay, just because I did it, because that's the times I've done that before. I've done the work. All right, I'm good. I know, I know myself. I know what I do. I know what makes me happy, what makes me sad. And you can live on that for a while.
I think that's kind of like that's a rough perspective to take. Is that like that there is an end goal. I look at it as that like it's a journey. Like it's just that street, and sometimes I'm making the left, sometimes I'm making the right. Sometimes it's swerving a little bit, but like on this journey, it's just figuring out how to get less potholes, how to get less of these different things, and like keep going. But I believe in Murphy. Like I believe in general, like no matter who you are, like you're going to go through the journey of life and finding yourself in person. There's not a rich person or a poor person. Well, I mean, I'll put it like this: it's not a rich person that you find that doesn't still have issues.
And a lot of those issues they have, money can't solve, and that's
Yes, and that's what I believe. If I'm not mistaken, like the blank rate, self deletion rate of people of a certain income rate is higher than people at a lower standard, in which like they like goes to the point of like finding yourself isn't necessarily like an end goal. Like sometimes people be like, once I make this amount of money, I'm good.
Right.
No, you actually got to sit with yourself in there.
right.
You know
gotta
the funny
learn
thing,
yourself.
the funny thing, and y'all already know my position over paper thing. But look, this is the fun. Well, it's not a funny thing. It's something that just is like I think this is just the reality of it. When you don't have money, that's just the only thing. It pretty much covers. It puts blinders on the other stuff. The other things aren't as important.
Yep.
But those are the more important things for real. Because let's say like that money thing changes. That just fluctuates. But your ability to communicate.
Yeah,
That right there gonna land you
needs.
fucked up. That's gonna land you. You know what I mean? Or your ability, or your let's say, this your lack of emotional intelligence. You can make all of this money and then just have a shitty, you know what I mean, level of emotional intelligence, and people don't want to be around you. People just opt out of being around you.
Or just being able to find joy.
Right.
Sometimes
Tell you that.
sometimes that's hard for a lot of people. It's just being able to be happy.
Yeah.
About shit. Because once you get money, if you can't find joy, then you just
all your bills
miserable.
paid. Let's just say all your bills paid, and you just sitting at the
you
house, and
miserable.
it's just like, okay, what now?
Nah, I think what really happens because y'all remember the phrase Jeremy came up with a few months ago. Misery is coming. Like I do believe that that's gonna happen. But I think what the key really is like most of the time you have to be grateful in order to really be joyful. I feel like I think that's where the key is because you're gonna have bad days. So if you're not grateful for your bad days too, when you learn to be grateful for your bad days,
dope.
it become a whole different thing.
No, and it's actually gonna be one of the ones I brought up as far as. But I was just watching something, and I got to say I ain't even gonna look at it, but they was talking about how essential gratitude is to success, and how you have to be able. That's something I always talk about. Like when I wake up, I try to find 2 or 3 things just to be, happy and appreciative of. Because that, when you wake up like that, it changes your perspective on life. Or just because it was Steve Harvey, he was talking about like if you got 20 grand and your goal is to get to 1 million, but then you get to 50 and you still not happy, even though you was just at 20, now you at 50. It's like it almost defeat the purpose of why you even accomplishing these goals, because you have to you got to have that gratitude in order to be able to push yourself and to be able to see the bigger picture, understand I done came this far. So I just got to keep on going in this direction. But if you mad and you still only looking at that million, and you like, well, I so far away from it, but you don't see how far you came. You don't see how much you done evolved.
The
how much
importance of setting
work.
short-term goals as well.
Yeah, lessons. And that's something. I'm glad we got there, because that was one of the joints I was gonna talk about. But
With emotional intelligence, or which part you talking about?
just the gratitude.
Oh, the gratitude part.
Being able to show gratitude. So that's just it's crazy that we still ended up there, through this conversation. But
I agree. And I guess, how can I put? Well, I know with me, I don't think that I don't really have a lot of bad days per se that are like really bad. But I do have like restless days or anxious, like days that I'm really anxious or different things like that. And I think that one thing for sure is, I think one of the solutions to a bit of this conversation is to kind of fall in love with yourself and understand yourself. Where for everybody, like there's a different carrot that we're all chasing, right? And like for me, for example, like a lot of people want free time. I don't want free time. I've learned that over time. When I'm just sitting by myself and it's like all things are done and I'm just like sitting doing like the regular people shit, I'm just watching a show or something like that, I get extremely restless. And then like that, and I just feel like I want to be doing something. I should be doing something. And then I'm gonna just get up and I'm gonna go do a graphic. I'm gonna come down here and fuck around with the cameras and try and learn something or do something like that. In which I found in general, that's like one of the things that I know for me gives me happiness, is like feeling as though I fulfilled a day's worth of work.
productivity.
And that doesn't have to be like literally working for the man, but like I felt like I made myself a little better this day. And that's something that I found like inside my happiness journey is like, that's what you actually like. It used to be like, damn, you got so many things lined up. Why you got those things lined up? Well, once I was able to just not have shit to do, I'd be like, I don't really like this.
No, I like being busy as fuck.
I like working towards a goal because I always had. Like, it was from drums, it was trying to be the best drummer. So I was just always doing something. Rap, trying to actually make it in rap, some shit like that. You know what I mean? Coaching basketball, you're trying to be the best coach and beat all these other. Like, it's always like an end goal that I felt like I should be working towards researching. But yeah, that's my little piece.
That's what I tell the people at my job, because my little friend girl at work, she be complaining about relationships and all that shit, and I be like, "Shorty, you need a hobby. You need to get something to do.
Adult hobbies, yeah.
You need something to do in your free time, so
That's a big thing.
Worried about like chasing behind all these dudes or making bad decisions. You doing something with your life, and you occupying that free time. So any potential, they call it potential suitors, anybody that come along and want to fuck with you, he be like, damn, shorty, she really moving. I'm gonna have to step my game up. But if you just got a bunch of free time and you sitting twiddling your thumbs and shit, that's when you make those, that's when you end up sending that dumbass text.
Yeah.
Doing something you ain't really necessarily supposed to do. But if what they say, idle hands do the devil's work or something like that. They say,
I don't mind the devil play
right. It's a bunch of them. So like you say, having a hobby, that's why I don't necessarily. I like doing creative things. That's how I look at it. I like always having, something creative. Whether it's a podcast or back in the day it was music, photography. But I always and I find myself being happier when I have that creative outlet versus when I'm not doing it.
So I guess I throw it to you. Where it goes, that same question. What are some things that you do that you felt over time has helped you reach happiness? Like when you're happy, like you feel like you're happy. Like he said, creativity for him. Me, I like to be involved in something that has like a big end goal. So I'm always working towards something.
I guess for me, it's probably gonna be something about like contributing to somebody else. Yeah, just like I think because I don't really be wanting for too much of doing. You know what I mean? I love the creative space too, and I love what we're doing here. But like, what I get the most joy out of is pretty much listening to people, and just trying, just lending the conversation is what it is for me. Yeah, like mentoring and like just conversation or just get, you know what I mean? Because at the same time, like even I got a young boy specifically that I kind of been talking to for some years, and like it's like I like talking to him because he likes talking to me. I learn stuff from him too. It's just a conversation. Like I really just love, the conversation and just the idea that something that I say can help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Possibly something that I can say about this scenario could possibly, make a light bulb go off. And then maybe, hell, I say something to you that in turns makes you say something to me that makes a light bulb go off in my head. So like I really, that's pretty much really the thing that, you know what I mean? Let's say after the music, because I was, that right there was like that space that I really loved to be in. And then after that I can see is that it's really conversations. And I realized like, even relationships that I'm not able to have the conversations, like some people that I just like, you know what I mean, that I mess with really tough over time, that stuff will just because of the conversation, it's not like,
there.
It's like what, I don't know,
Well,
bro.
let me ask you this. Because I think it's dope when like you give, like especially like the little homies, you give them some advice and bro will run with it. And then you look back 3 months later, 6 months later, and bro doing what you said.
Yeah.
And he killing it. He be like, oh,
Bro, ain't nothing like that.
shit,
When I saw
bro.
my young boy got that 700 credit score,
Yeah,
and
you be like,
he had
based off what I told you?
700 at 23, I was like, bro, you killing them, bro.
Yeah,
Like you killing them, dog.
That'd be the best shit. So I guess like when you say those conversations, is that where like people ain't necessarily like understanding what you saying, or like cause that's it for me. Like if I give you advice and you ain't necessarily like, you come and ask me for advice and I give it to you, or we had that relationship, but then you not listening, and then you coming back to me 6 months later with the same problem.
Oh yeah,
A lot of times that's where like I found in those relationships where we kind of have to part ways a little bit, because
that is a I ain't gonna say, that's a problem for me too, because I don't really understand what's the point. Like you really don't want to talk,
or why are we talking about?
yeah,
Why am I continually like putting my time and effort into talking about this?
For me, the worst part is where it's like, you just don't understand. Like based on the way that you respond to me, you don't understand what I'm saying. That's one of those ones that were like, you know what I mean, or like small words, and I don't know. I ain't gonna get too deep into it, but like where there's way too easy of a misconnect.
Communication.
Yeah, it's way too easy of a misconnect that it's just, or disconnect. It's just like it's not something that I find intriguing at all. Like, you know what I mean? I don't use no SAT words. I try to, you know what I mean? I speak in straight lines, and I don't try to talk over your head. So that'll piss me off very easily.
They might not be able to help it, bro.
Nah, they just not listening most of the time. That's
why are you talking what's the point of talking to me if you don't want to listen?
Bro, I've been guilty of that. Like I done zoned out in the middle of somebody talking and not been listening. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it for me. Just conversation. I look forward to that shit every day.
Gotcha. So Johnny, what you got for this week?
So now I got a meme from the Breakfast Club. I don't know if y'all still watch the Breakfast Club or not, but it said that they had Elliot, a black therapist, Elliot Connie, on there, and it was a really good interview. But one of the clips I'm gonna show y'all right here is say why children should disrespect their parents. I think it's a good perspective.
And before we play the video, anybody else like feel like they OD'd on them dumbass chairs?
Yeah.
Like, bro, like soon as I saw, I'm like, come on, bro, what were we going for?
Yeah.
What were we going for?
Well, I think that the
I don't
new
like
set
the new
doesn't look
studio,
good. Yeah, the
yeah.
new set just doesn't look
I don't like the whole new studio.
Just take the chairs, bro. I ain't mad. Just them big ass chairs gotta go.
The set looks cluttered.
Yeah. Look like I'm gonna tell you what it does look like.
It looks less cozy.
Well, what it looks like is that it didn't have a woman's input.
Nah, that's a fact. This nigga's like, yeah, we want that ass.
Yeah, put it right there. Put that there. Put that there.
That's hard too.
And give us thrones.
Give us thrones.
We want thrones.
That's facts. Like, bro.
We ready, Tone?
All right.
You told me the other day that you feel like kids should disrespect their parents.
I think parents should expect. Jason, let me put that in context. How many of you guys in this room would like to raise your children to be strong-minded, independent-thinking, ambitious kids or adults, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you are going to instill that, part of that is confidence, part of that is voice, part of that is knowing I have value. And when you're teaching your child that, and I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the first place they practice voice is on you guys.
Correct.
That's the first place. So you might say to them something, and I'm going to tell you something. My mother, I had 2 brothers. My mother would say, Ellie, go do the dishes. And I would be like, why didn't you ask one of them? And that would get me popped. You know, that would get you looked at.
That's usually pop, and I told you so.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But if you're teaching your child to be confident, to be strong, to value their voice, they should ask those kinds of questions, and it allows you to parent them. But we shouldn't translate that as disrespect. They're just practicing.
That's not disrespect.
They're practicing their voice.
But that was in our era.
Right.
In the 1900s,
that was disrespect to me.
I would never think to talk back. I would never even think to talk to my parents the way my kids talk to me. But it's like, it's not, it's, as Ellie said, it's not disrespect. It's just them being like asking valid questions.
But that's also the way white people raise their kids, doing that.
Yeah.
Because like my grandmother, you could never, she'd tell you whatever to do. Paint the house. Just go paint it. You may not know how to paint, but you don't paint the house.
We confuse respect for silence. And I think that's a problem. I think we have to allow our children.
Expound on that?
If I say go paint the house and the child says, yes, ma'am, and goes paint, we think, oh, that's such a respectful child. But that same child, if some strong-willed 17-year-old kid in high school says, let's go skip school, they're going to say, yes, sir. Like, we have to teach them to question, why am I painting the house? I should understand the context of the life that I live in. Why am I painting the house? For these reasons. Okay, now it makes sense to me, and I understand, and I can do things that I understand and push back on things I don't.
That's why white folks got kids on leashes in the malls, because it's stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't
run free, you know.
Yeah, I don't agree with you with that, Elliot, because and this is going to sound crazy.
All right, here we go.
I got 6 kids. So if I tell one of my kids to do something, I expect it to be done. I'm not going to do it with something that's going to be detrimental to their health, something that's going to hurt them. It's part of what everybody needs to do to be in this household.
I agree with you.
Meaning if dad's chores or dad's way is to make the money, pay the bills, do this, that, and the other, and I ask you to shovel the snow, don't ask me why. Don't say, well, why didn't you ask this sibling? Why didn't you ask this one? No, because I asked you to do it.
But you could explain it to them just the way you explained it just now.
Envy, listen.
I shouldn't have to. Because now you're questioning. Because when you say, hey, Dad, I want to play basketball and cleats cost $500, I don't say, well, they're cheaper cleats. I'm like, oh, your grades are good? Okay, I got you those cleats.
But you should have that conversation on both ends of the spectrum, though. Now, I agree with you. If I say to my child, go do this, you want them to go and do it.
Now, I ain't going to say paint the house. Like, paint the house a little far.
But why that's a really good example is to a child, they have thought without wisdom. Mm-hmm. So you might ask the child to mow the lawn, but in their child brain, you asked me to paint the house. It's not, you have to help me understand the world in which I live. And I think it's both ends of the spectrum. If the child says, I want to play basketball and I need $600 Jordans, I don't think it's enough to just say, oh, you got good grades. You want to sit them down and explain to them, like, this $600 is hard to earn.
That's right.
And you're worth it. Mm-hmm. And then that child thinks they have value, and that child understands the world in which they live. But remember, guys, like, they get confidence, they get thought, they get spontaneity before they get wisdom.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was just a interesting perspectives. Being that I got a bunch of parents here, I figured I want to pick y'all's brain, because there's parts of that I definitely agree with, as far as and Jason touched on it too, as far as like, that's how white people, and that's why white people have, I believe they have such strong voices and stuff, because it is something that's allowed in their households from an early age.
That's an interesting point.
And it's something where they build that confidence. So when they get out in the world, they don't have no question about, I don't fuck with that. And, why are
they have strong voices because they have built-in privilege. But that's a different conversation.
No, I mean, that's part of it, too. I'm not going to disagree with that. But also part of it is they comfortable with,
I can see what you're saying.
questioning authority, because it's something that they've been allowed to do
their entire lives.
And it's something where black people, it's something we struggle with. It's something where, like,
I don't think so. I think that oppositional defiance is almost like a disorder that is given to specifically black kids.
Yeah, but I mean,
You
I
said
can see
what did you just say?
Oppositional defiance, the need to buck against authority. But I don't disagree with Cuz in his point. I'm only kind of like digging into
there's some deeper roots into that, though, as far as like
right. But what I'm saying is that in general, black people typically don't have an issue. Like black people aren't the go along, get along gang. Is what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
the history of the country
talking
wouldn't
about kids
necessarily.
too. He's talking about kids too.
Well, he's talking about in society and how it ends up manifesting itself, and that white people have like the louder voices because of their parents let them express early.
But
I don't agree with that. But,
go ahead. I think for me, when the way I kind of read what you were saying was more in like defiant to leadership, as far as like in a workplace or like you would see. In my opinion, I could kind of see what you're saying more like
individuality in general because they're
I think you're going a different place than what he was at.
Oh, okay. So I maybe just
I'm talking about just an individual like they're allowed to be like them and I don't know how all white people are raised, but just in general, there seems to be more freedom in them expressing themselves, them expressing their opinions from an early age, and I think it's part of why you see what you do. And I think because a lot of times black people, here's my thing, we do go along with what's said, like because even our politics, like we don't question that, and we don't question authority when it comes to politics. Somebody from the left will tell us we need to be mad, and guess what? We get mad. We don't question why we should be mad, or
but I think it's.
We trusted our parents with what they told us more than the white kids probably trusted their parents.
A little bit. I think those are. So in a second, let's get to the actual video because I'm close on your side. But the thing about it is that, like, when we look at things in a whole scale thing, like people typically are tribal to whatever they're brought up in. So it's not even a matter of like it's not like this crazy thing where a bunch of Republicans flip Democrats and Democrats flip Republicans. That's not like this huge thing that happens. Typically, if you're conservative, you grow up conservative, you end up conservative. Maybe there's like the liberal wild child that comes out of that. And the same thing is on the other side. Usually, if you grew up liberal, you end up liberal, and maybe if you got enough money, you turn conservative. Like politics is a little bit more different, and it's not just specifically black people that vote tribally. In general, people vote tribally. That's the conservatives. That's why you have red states that stay red. That's liberal. Like it's like I don't want to like specifically put it into that, but to go to what he was saying, I agree to a specific point. I think that there has to be a specific boundaries and there has to be certain spaces in which a parent's authority has to stand strong. But I practice this with QJ, where there's times, especially like inside, like say, like I'll give like the most recent example would be like after the basketball game, and I feel like he could have did something better, and he disagrees. Like I have no problem with him voicing how he feels, and there'll be moments he'll be like, "You're not letting me talk," and I, you know what, you're right, and I got to shut up for a second, and he got to get it off his chest a little bit, and say, "Nah, and like we'll continue the conversation up until it gets to like an end point, but. I do think that if you want strong-minded kids, there is a part where naturally you have to allow them to voice themselves in front of you. And that is really, really important. Ron talked about it last week. Like he gave another example with his kid where he said that, like it comes to a point and you just allow him to get it all out. And then for a second, it's like you got to be like, my parents would never. But the reality is that like I have more information than my parents. So there's more parenting and better parenting that I want to execute that goes against the literal rigid structure in which my parents parented me in. And so yeah, to that point I do agree. But again, I think that there is a certain level in which there's certain disrespectful lines that you will see if we go into the Caucasian line that I don't think is acceptable. And that's where my thing is. I think it's acceptable in the correct spaces.
Yeah, I think that they use, like Todd said, they use the word they use is disrespect. Mm-hmm. That what you were speaking of is not disrespect. You're talking about dialogue.
Right, and voice
The ability
Yeah.
to have a dialogue with your parents.
Yeah, a free dialogue.
Yeah. So
Open,
like that's like
yeah.
you know what I mean. Me growing up, I ain't never feel like I could say nothing. But it's crazy because nowadays I don't feel like I don't curse or nothing, but I don't feel like there's anything that I can't say. Even with my mom, like
Right. But
we've gotten that relationship as I've gotten into grown into an adult. But I could have never told you that there was an inkling of a thought that I could have got to a place where I could speak freely, even as an adult. And I'll say like I do agree. Like with Nashu, she's 3 years old now. I talk to her about like every single thing that we're about to do. So like even though she can't really articulate herself back to me, I don't know what it is. It feels like it's just something natural for us to do. Like I don't know what the generation. Us as a generation, I think that we're gonna end up breaking that down. That whole the child being void of the ability to speak what they think.
Or not even speak what they think. A lot of it comes down to, and because I agree with on the other end, I think disrespect needs to be checked and nipped in the bud immediately, so you
For sure.
do understand respectfulness when you go out into the world. But like you say, questioning authority, and the biggest thing I get from that is the why.
Yes, and I agree with that.
I think everybody should understand their why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm painting the house. Why am I painting the house? Shoveling the snow. Why am I shoveling the snow?
Right, and I guess
I think that because to me, and even growing up, if I understood why I'm doing this or how it helps,
Yeah, just not because I said so. Just that little Joe. No,
Yeah,
I can
I
agree with
agree.
that. And like painting the house. Why am I painting the house? Well, you're painting the house because the homeowner's insurance is going to cancel our homeowner's insurance
you can
because
just
we're
answer
not
the
meeting the.
but then now I feel valued. Oh
Yeah.
shit, I'm helping out because
Exactly.
And so when it comes to those questions, I feel like it is good to give that extra information to the kid as far as motivation.
And I think maybe Rail has said this before, but to me it sounds like he's pushing a buzzword where the examples don't line up with disrespect, and like that's
Right.
more so the biggest thing is that all of us are in agreement in general that having more open communication and allowing your kids to express themselves even in anger is a healthy thing to do in the correct spaces. And allowing them to do that will lead to beneficial things down the line. But there is a certain level of literal disrespect that you shouldn't step over.
Right. Right.
Taj.
I was gonna say I actually see my best friend practices with her son. He's only 5 at this point. And there are certain concepts in life that he doesn't understand right now. But if she asks him to do something, he'll be like, well, why, mommy? And she'll like explain, and then he'll be like, but why? And then she'll explain. If he keeps asking why, like she's gonna be like, okay. At some point, like, I just need you to do this. But she'll
Take your
break
ass
it
and
down.
pick up that ball.
Right.
You get one explanation. Hey, one. I got one for you. One.
But no, like, because he's at that age where he's so curious and he doesn't understand, it's like you can explain it, but he still might not understand. He still might say why. And it's not him challenging her as a
Sometimes kids be
parent.
slick.
Yeah, no, and see,
No,
I
sometimes
noticed
he
that
is.
too,
So
bro.
I will say that sometimes he is
smart.
very slick, but like her explaining it to him, they have more of an open dialogue. So when he's upset,
Yeah.
she'll be like, okay, why are you upset? And he'll cry. She'll be like, I need you to calm down. Why are you upset? He'll be like, you hurt my feelings. And she'll be like, okay, what did I do to hurt your feelings? And he'll be like, well, mommy, you da-da-da. And she was like, okay, I apologize. I hurt your feelings. However, when I tell you to do this, I need you to do it because of this reason. So you can go and be mad. I'm going to give you a few minutes, but I need you to come back and get this done.
Not bad.
And that's kind of how she does it with him. And it allows him to be able to express himself and feel comfortable talking to her, even though he's only 5.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, as he gets older, when he becomes, you know, a
It builds
teenager.
to our conversation earlier about emotional intelligence.
He's going to be able to
That's what I was
actually,
about to say that
he's
too.
going to be actually to understand how he feels and be able to express it properly instead of just reacting off of his emotions.
Man, I look forward to seeing what these new parenting strategies that we're attempting to implement. I look forward to seeing what this actually creates in the future. What these people or these adults look like after these, you know what I mean? After these experiments that we're kind of
I'm
implementing.
excited. I think we're gonna have a strong, very emotionally intelligent community, being able to communicate. I think, because like I say, I see how all my friends are raising their kids. I look at my friends' kids, or nowadays I look at anybody's kids, and I get what my parents used to say about how I look at your kid almost as a reflection of you. And I ain't necessarily always understand that. Now that I have a lot of friends with kids and just know people with kids, I can see it more so. I'll be like, oh, damn. Like, I see, and kids, eventually they're going to make their own decisions, and you're not accountable for every single decision your kids, especially the older they get. But you can see, you can understand people's where they come from or what they how they were raised, and I understand that more, and I see how my friends are raising kids, and it's just I feel like it's gonna be more of us. More spaces like this in the future for Black people. This isn't gonna be necessarily the exception, but maybe the standard, or maybe just the norm as far as Black people being able to communicate.
And I will say there is a healthy balance of your child questioning you and it getting to the point of like being disrespectful, right? Like your child's telling you to shut up or something like that. To me, I would consider that to be disrespectful. Or if your child...
Now, when they dropped the no bomb.
No, yeah, no, that's one too.
I kind of feel...
Not even wanting to say no to... Look at him.
It ain't that, because my homie, he got a 1-year-old, and my homie at work, and we was talking about it, and I was telling him, she gonna learn that word, no.
Yeah, that's like the first word
it don't necessarily...
Girl, you ain't talking about like a 1-year-old that just learned it. I'm talking about
the no card, I'm
talking about like the 7-year-old when you tell them go do something that they supposed to.
And they say no.
They don't say why, they say no.
Oh, well, then that's disrespectful.
That's a rough day.
That's the disrespect when it comes to
that's a rough day for you.
When it's just I know I should, but then it's no, I'm good.
Yeah. You trying to take it to the infants.
Ain't nobody talking about beating no babies.
Right. That's crazy. Go ahead. What you got?
I was going to say, now I remember this is, me in high school. I was friends with this girl. She's mixed, right? Her mom's Black, but we were in the car. I don't know if that has any relevance to what I'm about to say. But we were in the car, and her mom had said something to her. And she was like, shut up. And then she called her mom by her first name. Me,
Hold on, she told her mom to shut up?
Yes. Me being in the back seat, if that was Lori, I would have had my teeth up against the windshield. No questions about it. So I'm in the back seat looking at her mom, and her mom's going back and forth with her, but I'm just looking in between them you not gonna hit her? You just gonna let her talk to you like this?
My mom used to
if
be
it was
nice
my mom.
What?
She used to be driving.
Mom do some sharp with it.
What?
And something funny that reminded me of when I was younger. So I was the middle child, younger sister, older brother. And so my sister would always go further with my mom, which I think girls generally do.
Yeah,
they go further than the boys do.
Yeah.
And all the time, this used to happen every, maybe once a month. They'll be in the car talking about whatever, and my mom be like, all right, don't say nothing else. Talking to my sister. She was like, all right, that's it, and don't say nothing else. Jasmine, but Mom, reach back there. I'm talking about reach out and touch her every time, quick, and still be on the wheel.
That'd be the best.
Reach back and touch you.
That's why I thought Black moms had superpowers.
Bro,
We can keep it in the road and reach back and be accurate, too.
Accuracy.
When I tell y'all, that was my first time seeing that level of disrespect between, one of my friends and their moms. The minute my other friend even tried to remotely step a toe over that line, her mom was knocking her out in front of everybody. She did not care. So, for her to tell her mom to shut up and they're going back and forth, and her mom's not, hitting her, disciplining her. Her mom's just like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm like, whoa. What's going on here?
I had some
I bet
friends.
you bruh having a rough time. Whoever bruh is,
Yeah.
he having a rough time.
I had friends who their parents, I felt would almost try to embarrass them when I'd come over there. They put the hammer down. I've seen my homie. I've seen my homie get disciplined in front of me. I'm I probably don't need to see this shit, bro.
You feel weird, right?
Why am I watching this? I wasn't gonna disrespect you, bro. I wasn't even thinking about it, but I've seen that.
Yeah.
But that's all I had to say about that.
Got you. Royal, I guess it's on you. What you got for us this week?
And damn, man. See, I guess I want to save the one that I had because it's I like where we are, and this was gonna take us a little left.
You can go left.
Yeah,
Go left with over here.
Yeah, I don't really want to go left. I like the move. I like the move.
I don't think you're gonna change the move. Come on, give us the 5.
No, I want to
give us an option.
I'm gonna alley you back over to Taj for this this nice accomplishment that we
he
had.
kind of Euro step the question.
Yeah.
Now we need a real question. No, nigga.
No, we don't need a real
Man
question.
tried to get up out of there.
Right.
That man was pivoting. He looking.
What them women did to you? What you got?
Oh nah, ain't no women.
Come on, talk to me,
bro. I'm actually doing all right. I'm doing all right these days, bro.
Hey, I like.
I ain't mad at it.
Hey, look,
Hey, I'm actually all right, bro. Oh, he that made me think about something. So I saw something on Facebook, and it was a woman that I know of. She was asking why do black men not having black women as their managers?
Repeat that.
She was asking and she's a manager, so this is something that I assume she has experienced it or heard someone say something about it. And she said, why do black men not like having black women as their managers?
I don't think that's the thing. I mean, is she your manager?
No, she ain't my manager.
Do you think?
I ain't never worked with her. She work in a whole different.
Different.
Yeah, in a whole different sector.
I mean, I don't think black men got a problem with black women being a manager. Me personally, I don't care who it is. I like good management. Like I'll call a manager out, like a black, white, Asian, purple, yellow. Like I'll call a manager out. Yeah, because like I know how to do my job. So like if you not gonna at least come with the same expertise, or if you just one of those, because a lot of time managers didn't necessarily go through the whole ringer. Yeah. They just get put in a management position, and that's the thing for me. If you don't know how to do my job, there's only so much you can really say to me, or and maybe that's it. Because I don't think it's an issue with black.
That though.
Would you not want to teach them how to Would you not want to be like, hey, this is really what I do, to give them a better understanding, or you just kind of letting them figure it out?
A manager?
I honestly don't think a manager should have to
know.
It's
not my job to teach a manager. But
I'm saying, like, depending on where that person come from. Let's just say that person was a manager in a whole different line of work somewhere else, right? But they fit the requirements for this job. Obviously, if they're coming in and they don't know anything about what you're doing, right, they're going to need to talk to you to figure out, okay, what is it that you do, so I know how to actually manage you, because I'm not familiar with this line of business.
I mean, I'm with the communication and talking to it, but when it comes to you telling me how to do my job, or I operate, at least in my world, I'm in sales, so I have a process, and every sales for the process, you can adjust it. Everybody does their own process a little different. So sometimes a manager will come in and be like, well, you need to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, this is my process. I'm doing it the way it works for me. It might work for you when you're the sales, but like if you don't, and a lot of managers are rigid. They only know one way to do it. And that's just me personally, about like it might not apply to all fields or anything. But when I hear that, my first inkling is maybe it's not good management. And maybe it's not a black thing, right? Maybe it's a how well are you managing thing. Because I don't think a person would have a problem with a good black manager if they was a good manager.
Agreed.
All right, so I'm gonna try and answer the question.
So you said he didn't answer just now?
Well, he kind of went on like a tangent about management. I was like,
that is true.
That's what he
I just wanted to make sure he knew that he did. That he was pointing out the shoot and answer the question.
Hey, I had some shit on my chest. Right. Let them motherfuckers know.
Yeah, I understand. But now if I'm gonna try and answer the question, I think that the reason why black men would have an issue with it is that I would say if they don't have a good relationship with their mother and they see that as an extension, because it is an authoritative woman that is pretty much telling them what to do in the same sense that a mother would do, depending on how that manager yields their power. That would be my answer to why.
That sounds like
I got a question.
Hey, that sounds like the popular black woman answer. She was like, "Yeah, you were scarred. Who scarred you? It was your mother. It was your relationship with your mother." I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that's what it just sounded like some shit I would have heard on that.
If a guy specifically had an issue, and I'm not saying if they do or if they don't, but that's what I would believe that it would stem from somewhere. If you specifically have an issue with black women,
can I ask you a question?
But I have a black woman managing. I'm cool with it.
Let me ask you this. Is that just a black thing, or is that a thing with just men?
Yeah.
Well, that's like I was only trying to answer the question specific because she was asking why would this be a thing,
right?
And so to me, that's the hypothesis that I would throw out.
You know what I came up what hypothesis I would come with, and I'm not gonna say this is not a general thing because my mom manager and I'm just gonna say it. I think that
especially the trope of single black moms too.
I think that and this is just me trying to answer the question as you were trying to answer it. I think that sometimes as a man, like when I just when I was sitting there thinking about, it, I was like, okay, so let me flip it. Let's see what if a how would I manage a woman, and what would be the differences that I could possibly come up with to see what the complaint could be. So what I thought about was like, okay, well, if I was managing a woman versus a male, the way that I kind of approach it is just a little bit different because I'm a man speaking to a woman. You know what I mean? There's a way in which I know how to communicate to them. There's a way in which I know how to communicate to men. I know I can be straight to you a little bit. I can be much straighter to you and just say it without having to add the bushes and the flower pot. You know what I mean? So like that would be one thing that I would say that if she doesn't communicate in an effective way to men in general, if she speaks from a really, I think that just in most managers, period, men don't really, and like you said, it's more of a gender thing. Man, I don't think men deal well with that whole you speaking down to me based on a position. I dealt with that in the military. You a sergeant, so now you think that you can just talk crazy. Yeah, but I'm still a man. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that could very well be it. The idea in which I don't know for sure if maybe that's what it is. Maybe she, as an individual, doesn't really know the difference in the way in which we communicate with one another and the way in which we expect to be communicated with by women as well.
What I was going to say is that I also think that one thing that you do see with I think it's a gender thing, but like right now we're speaking specifically about women. Like we tend to overreach on the other side of the gender. So for women, at times when managing is a masculine job, like it's been like you're an authoritative situation, in which they might over.
What makes it masculine?
Because of like there's a certain level of authority in telling people to do. Like you're leading. Like in the traditional sense, leading is a masculine trait.
Okay, I can go.
And so damn, I'm just off my train of thought. Overreaching. Yeah. So in general, when you see to me when I see women typically do male things, like you have a play fight with a woman, with a girl.
Oh, she always OD.
And she going
always OD.
That's the point. Like you ever see that like the young girls when they want to get put on pads and play football, they the most aggressive ones. Because of like they feel like they kind of have to overdo it a little bit, just to be able to prove the gender side. And that will be another piece to the pie that I would put on it. If that is what's also happening.
I was going to ask, you know how you were saying if you was in that position, how you would talk maybe a little softer to like a women than you would men. Being roles reversed back, is her. Do you think she maybe tries to talk a little more direct to black men?
And that's kind of what he was saying.
Versus being like they're having that same softness, you know, with women. But then when it comes to a man, like kind of overcompensate and just being like, oh, I'm going to be super direct. And then so sometimes with that super direct, it gets very close to, you know, that respect line.
You know, the funny thing, the first thing I thought about when
direct and respect is very, very close.
First thing I thought about when I seen her asking the question, I was like, well, are you, my mind, are you single?
I don't think that has nothing.
No, the reason why I would ask that is because that generally, or have you been in, what is your relationship like? Like, because we could say, like, you went to the point to where you say, like, that he has a fucked up or messed up relationship with his mom, possibly. The same can be said that she's had a negative experience with men. Okay. So she actually communicates with men in this way. That could be quite possible as well.
I think maybe the more relevant question would be like, what's her relationship with her pops? And therefore, we're going to dig into maybe reasons. Not she's single or not. I don't think that really had to. But
no, because the thing is, I think a successful relationship, there's most women that you see have a successful relationship, they know how to communicate with both sexes, generally. The ones that I've seen, that actually like wives that have had like long-term relationships, they communicate with men and generally in a more softer. You know what I mean?
No, I get you. No, I agree.
That's like at least, and then that's what I've seen too. Well, no, that's a lie. So I'll actually draw that back a little bit because I've even seen that more masculine managing strategy from women that's been married forever and all of that shit too. So I'll take that back. I'm gonna draw that one back.
I'm even more so trying to get further away from like the one size fits all marriage conversations because typically one thing I've learned through like this journey of hold on, before I make this point, I'm gonna throw the ties because you had your hand up. And this is
Yeah,
gonna
I
take
was
us somewhere
actually
else.
a bank manager. Not sure if you guys knew that. And I had a lot of issues with men, whether it was workers or customers. I don't know. For me, it was always an issue of trying to find the right balance of communication. If you're like, hey, let's be more collaborative, they'll try to run all over you. If you're like, hey, I need you to do this, and it's a problem of, oh, well, you're speaking to direct, because my manager came to me and she was like, your style of managing with your team is too direct. Like, you need to be softer. I'm like, I'm managing 12 people. I really don't have time to be soft. Like, we gotta run the business here. I need people to get things done when they need to get done. And this is also their job requirement. So when I sit down and meet with you every month, it wasn't even like that. It was just like, this is what I expect from, because I also didn't write people up. I wasn't the type of manager that's going to go to HR and write you up. Like, I wasn't doing that. For me, it's kind of like, okay, we've talked about this several times. This is your job requirement. This is what I need you to do. What's stopping you from doing it? How can I help you? Because at the end of the day, we got to meet numbers. I got numbers that I got to meet as well. And sometimes, like, fluffing around, like, well, I've noticed, and it doesn't always get you where you need to be. Sometimes you have to take the more stern approach of, hey, we need to get this done.
Let me ask you this, Clive. You heard the question. Have you experienced, is that problem you talking about, that specifically with black men? Or
No,
just men
it
in
was
general?
for me, men in general.
Just men
No matter if
okay.
you're black, white, Hispanic, whatever. I've had an issue with men, particularly like older men. I might have had like an issue with maybe 2 younger black guys, but for the
it's
most
the
part, it's
older
always
men.
been the older men.
Okay,
And I don't
that
know if it
makes
was just
sense.
because I was a younger girl. I was like in my mid-20s as a manager, so I don't know if it's like a respect thing of, you don't have enough like time in this industry, you don't know what you're talking about type thing. I don't know if that's kind of where that came from. But for me, it was more so with men than like the women. Some older women did give me issues, but for the most part, it was kind of the men.
You ever fired anybody?
Huh? Like older men, like probably 50s and up. A few of them were really nice, but for the most part, like some of them were just like, nah, we're your manager.
Hey, Taj, you ever fired any of them?
One of my employees?
Yeah.
I fired one, but it wasn't my decision. It was because she did something against company policy, and our what are they called? Like our internal people made the decision to fire her, and I just had to relate it to her.
Yeah, I think that my
But I've
biggest
never
thing,
actually. I promoted. Like if I could get you out of that
Should've
role.
fired one of them dudes.
No, because then the other thing too is, Johnny, is like, okay, so if you don't want to do your job, do you not want to be here? What goal do you have? If you don't want to be in this role, I can get somebody else to fill it. It's an entry level position. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to get somewhere else, let's focus on that so I can let you post out and you can do what you want to do. I was never going to fire someone because they wasn't doing their job. My whole thing is, if you don't want this position, somebody else can get it, and you can get promoted to something that you really want to do. But don't be here and like not produce and just be miserable, and that rubs off on everybody else. I'd rather just get you promoted.
That sounds like a good manager. That sounds like somebody that.
I'm gonna say what I
Yeah,
said
bro, that sound
previously.
like-
I'm not saying this is not directed to you at all, Taj. I think that the companies hire managers off tenure and like these, you know what I mean, just things that don't have anything to do with your
Irrelevant
ability to manage.
qualifications.
You don't hire a manager because they do good at the job. You know what I mean? To me, a person that manages should, because managing ain't the same thing as the job they were doing. Pay them their money. Pay them what they deserve to make in that position. Pay them what they deserve to make in order to fulfill what they need financially. Don't make them a manager just because they do that job well. Because who's to say that they can manage people well?
Well, that's yeah.
It comes with a level of communication and a level of care about people that is different than, you know what I mean? This is black and white, and you know what I mean? If you wanna have your turnover as you know what I mean, as high as a lot of these businesses are, then that's what you do. You just keep putting people up there that's gonna read black and white paper and just you know what I mean? There's a level of human. There's a level of human understanding, and I ain't saying that you just let people run over you or nothing like that. Of course not. You still have to do your job, but there's still a level of the ability to communicate the need for increase, or you know what I mean, whatever you should need to get out of them. There's a way in which you can communicate them to make them want to do it. And if you don't have that ability, then maybe you should be doing something else.
It was you have to have some motivational aspects,
Right?
about you know, like people kind of discount that, but being able to motivate somebody to want to do their job and to find out what makes this person tick. How can I dive in and really push them, really press his buttons and get them to do, you know, not just for me, but help them out. And a lot of it go back to coaching too. It's the same thing as far as like a lot of the best coaches aren't necessarily the best players.
But see,
Right.
that also takes time in you getting to know your team. Because some people come in, like you're saying, you have managers that don't even know anything about you.
Right.
So like when I became a manager, I sat down with each person and was like, hey, fill out this form. I need to know some things about you. What motivates you? What are some things you don't like? Things like that. And I always try to keep a mental note of that. So it's kind of like, all right, so just so we don't have any misunderstanding. And if there was ever a situation where my team felt like I came at them crazy, they always talk to me. Like, Tosh, can I talk to you for a second? Yeah, sure. What's going on? Well, earlier you said da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I apologize. I didn't mean for it to come off that way. This is what I was trying to say. Like, are we able to, like, do you get where I'm coming from now? And that was just, I mean, because then they were all people.
Yeah, I can't say like I said. I don't think. I think that, and then another thing too. And I'm not talking about you, but you came that whole paper that you talked about that just made me think about something. And then, like a lot of the organizations too. And I get like y'all really about trying to get that dollar. The organization that's what it's about. For the business itself is the dollar. And I understand that.
It's a business.
And then, so my thing is that you're trying to come up with all of these different words of inclusion and all of these different words that you're trying to act like you're trying to build morale and you care about. Bro, come on, cut the shit, bro. Cut the shit. All of this sounds good, but then well, I won't even say cut the shit because maybe somebody up there does care. But if you don't have managers that actually can. If you don't have managers that actually care about individuals, then it all looks like bullshit.
I've had that before too. A manager that just did not give two fucks. And I had to go to HR for her a couple times. A couple times.
And I think more people need to do that too. In our community, with that whole snitching thing. At the job, bro, if management is, is doing things a certain way, bro, that's because the only thing you're doing is getting out the way for the next person to have to deal with it. So you just letting that shit.
People should snitch.
I'm saying that it ain't snitching if you're addressing the concern in
right.
the workplace.
I'm always gonna say if something in the workplace is wrong, every line of business has like their own little code of conduct or whatever it is. If something happening at your job that you're uncomfortable with or something that's going wrong, I definitely encourage people to call HR. Call HR and keep a file of it because if the behavior isn't correct, it's going to keep going.
Yeah, and then the thing is, then what happens when you react to it?
Right, now you're in the wrong and you look crazy.
And you definitely look crazy if there's no record of you complaining. Like, you just snap one day, after you snap, you can be like, man, but she said, this. And then last month, nobody, it don't even matter. If you ain't documented it, you can snap and then go through the whole list of what she did, but if you ain't never documented it,
you gonna wear it.
Yeah, but as far as it being related, like just solely to black men and black women, I can't speak on that because my experience has been across the board with just older men.
I guess that's the part that I ain't necessarily like she made it a black men thing, where it's probably just a man thing. Probably just her being a woman and them being men, and not necessarily her being a black woman and it being black men.
That's probably that's
and that's when I answered it the way I did. That's what I guess I had to break it down a little bit, but that's the problem I had, where it's like she acts like black men are against her being like, no,
got you.
It ain't necessarily
like we want you to be doing worse than
right.
that. Yeah,
no,
I see what you're saying.
It's just a man versus woman thing, not black man versus black woman thing. And that's just why I want to leave it.
Yeah, right.
You got one for us?
He already gave us his.
What, something like a statement or
no, like a meme or something?
I
guess you started. Okay.
Well, I can give something else.
I don't know.
I think this was something that I thought about.
Well, hold on. Before we definitely want to make sure we get this this accolade, I guess you want to call it, or this moment of
it.
You know what I mean, of appreciation to the response to our content as well. We don't want to miss that in the.
Okay, cool. So I'll throw this out while they get it kind of queued up. Where I was kind of having I was just thinking randomly, and it kind of led me to maybe self-esteem would have been like the point, but then it's kind of inside a meme version where I feel like the same thing that drives women to get the BBL, the tummy tuck, like the plastic surgery, all that shit.
I'm about to disagree already. Go ahead.
Is the same thing that drives men to want to seek to be like the high value man that's able to, you know what I mean, explore his options and exploit women. Like it's a certain level of like self-esteem and need for public validation that really pushes heavy in our community, that it's seen on both of the extremes on both sides, and each side tries to call each other out on it. Again, I like to throw to the horseshoe theory of Johnny. But to me, both of the behaviors are just so wild. And I just be looking at both sides bicker with each other and be like, it's a fucking circus.
I got a question. Do you know any dudes that like, I'm gonna just say, I don't know any dudes that are like chasing this high value man ideal. Do you know anybody?
A bunch of them. I mean, to me, if I just
Like
go
in,
on,
like in real life.
In real life is what I'm talking about.
So in real life, y'all are the majority of the people that I communicate with. I work from home. But like the people, but
I'm disconnected from the community.
Well, no. But what I can answer with would be a couple things. Like so, real people that I know and how they post. Yes. Real people. Well, no. Matter of fact,
Posts don't count. Though,
matter of fact, I can take that back even more. I do know a couple people. Like we know one. I don't want to call his name out. We all literally know one. That quote heavily inside that doctrine. But in general, I think that more from what I've seen from most guys that I know.
Me?
No, I'm not talking about you at all.
Oh, I just Johnny pointing at me. I know he ain't talking about me. I don't care nothing about this shit.
Like you still trying to figure it out.
Oh no, I think I know who it was. I think I know who you're talking about.
It's Lone Ranger. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of. That's funny as shit.
No. But like he quotes a lot of, but I don't like he's not nowhere near isolated at all.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys that I know, I don't like literally see him day to day, but they quote heavily this. A lot of guys have the facade that they want to be traditional men, in which you typically need a specific income level to be there. And they want women to do very specific things, and they want women to do that. Mm-hmm. And I you know how many times I done seen the retweets of high value men ain't cheating, they exploring their options. Niggas dig deep into that.
Bro, that right there is just like.
What? No. So I think that you're reasonable, and you like. But I've sat and had multiple like back and forth with multiple people that really believe in this, and I think that a lot of like the man shit is starting to reach that feminist stage. You know how like at a certain spot where
that's nasty.
Yeah.
But it was a certain spot where like, oh, y'all not like trying to like go for equality.
Yeah.
Y'all niggas, y'all women trying to put your foot on niggas' necks.
Y'all trying to hold something.
Right. And when I hear it, I'm like, bro, like nobody's fighting for like an equitable situation. It's just like niggas battling to put their foot on each other's neck.
Bro, you know the funniest thing is that like the dudes even like talk about like there's nobody that I know enough to know, you know what I mean, to say that I know you that should be talking about all of this exploring options and all of this shit. They weren't talking to us. They weren't. They were talking to us because we were because we were their audience, but they weren't talking about us. Mm-hmm. We weren't included in the conversations that they was having. Like Kevin said, that's why he always was asking. The reason why he would go into the high value was because he would ask how much money do they think he should make, and they would always say some 400,000, 600. You know, and then you start talking about what they want, but. That's not relative to us, like, you know what I mean?
No, but you're smart enough to differentiate. I also would say, how many guys did you see, especially the height of the Kevin Samuels, resharing and being like, see, about those points, and they were digging down.
Yeah, I don't know what they were
making 55 a year.
Yeah, right. And I'd be like,
making 55
like, this
a
does
year.
not apply to you. You see how many guys right now? This is something I see a lot. And I see this about most guys say this, the modern woman thing. And they complain about what modern women do from the lens of what a traditional guy could provide. And I think that's where, like, it's all based off of that Kevin Samuels conversation.
But I will say also, there were some very valid things that he said, aside from like the whole idea of like when you get to a certain bracket you can just cheat and stuff. Like, well, we don't need to be talking about that because more than likely I'm not gonna make probably 500, 600,000 a year, and I'm completely okay with that. But I thought it was more than that. It was the relationship.
No, I think
Like, he defines it in a very specific way.
Oh, what was the
I
tax
think-
bracket as far
I
as?
think it's like the top, like it's within
top
like
like
the top
1%.
1 or 10%. It's something like that. But once you get 150, you
up there.
Oh, okay, well, I'll take that
it's like
back.
being respected among your peers. It's like a couple different
Yeah.
things.
But see, hey, here's my thing. I think people forget. Kevin Samuels done been through that. He done had the broke dude on there talking
Oh,
shit.
yeah, talking cash
like he
shit.
done went through the same exact thing with the dude on there. And he like, you not high, and he done told him you not high value. Like you can't sit up there.
He told Brady, he was like, so you just a fat motherfucker.
Right.
man."
Right. Well, I mean, I'll say that in general, I'll say I might have seen only one clip of
He was
like him
flaming
really,
them niggas.
and I know what you're talking about, like the clip with Homeboy, and he asked him about like his penis size and all that shit.
Oh, yeah. It was another one with the white boy. He said he was paying his mom
He done had a
bills.
couple
I'm
of them though. He done had
Yeah.
flame dudes up just
He
the
was,
same way.
no, it was worse with the dudes, in my opinion, bro.
It was kinda-
I don't
He
know.
was calling, he was calling them
That's what
shit.
we
Yeah, no.
got.
But go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, but I guess I think that nonetheless that's true. Like he did, and you'll usually hear guys retort that. But inside like his 2-year run, it was
Yeah.
primarily women, and the guys was hanging on to his word. a lot.
Yeah. My sister
And-
was saying that too.
And
It's
it
like,
was
these
really,
niggas-
and it was usually guys that it didn't apply to. So
Facts.
it was a weird little thing.
But they didn't look at
if-
everything though. They didn't go back and check those ones out where he
Right,
was.
but I think that's also fair in general. Like most people aren't going into the 2-year archive with most things that they watch.
But then you know
Like,
something that's
I ain't
crazy?
gonna act like I sit and watch episode 1 of most podcasts.
The
I
thing
just
is
pick
that
up where he at and keep rolling.
But I mean, at the same time, we can't really get mad at the fact that he blew up at the time he did, because the thing is, as men, we'll just take the criticism. Nigga, ain't nobody finna you ain't finna get famous criticizing
I
men because we
disagree.
just don't give a fuck that
Well, no, I
much.
see.
I
that's what he's saying.
I guess I'm not. To me, I'm not trying to make this against Kevin Samuels conversation.
Okay.
I was
But yeah,
only pointing out the fact that
niggas talking about something.
that
yeah.
in general with the points he was making
Mm-hmm.
because of like what didn't go like he hadn't for 2 years really been speaking about like his most current conversations in his lives weren't towards men, so
Mm-hmm.
it was pointed inside a specific direction to where most of his viral clips now
For sure.
consistently were about women.
All
and
of them were
and
men.
though
Most
he
people
does
didn't
have
know.
the smoke for guys.
Yeah,
Most
but
people
all of
don't
his
do
stuff that actually got traction was about women.
Right,
and that was
right.
the only point that I was
And
just making.
that's usually what guys was kind of like retweeting. He wasn't really like retweeting the holding men accountability thing.
Yeah.
So that's the point that I'm saying. But again, the bigger thing that I'm saying is that is no different. Like I was just making the comparison of like the BBL validation X, Y, and Z is very similar to like the Fresh and Fit, like hyper Kevin Samuels. I want to exploit women thing. Like both of them deals with, to me, a certain level.
You
of
said I want
self-esteem.
to exploit women?
That's what if we go
I
Kevin
agree
Samuels,
with
Andrew
that.
Tate, Fresh and Fit, their conversation based.
Oh, you're
is
talking
based
about the
around-
women the women that they're talking to, like the actual
yeah,
women
like,
that's
in
on there.
essence, usually like you object, like they look at women as objective, as objects, and like I'm gonna get you, but you have to deal with my shit because I make a certain amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the basis of it, and a lot of it, like it seemed like they took that one little thing that Kevin Samuels saying and just ran with it a little bit. But I think
No, I
both
agree
of
with
them like stem from the idea of the need for validation. That's
Yeah.
my little statement.
Yeah, I can agree to it. Yeah, I can agree. That doggone BB, what is it's the BBL, right? BBL thing. That John is like when I see it, it's like when you see it, you know that you're looking at it. That's the part that's just like, like at least the times, at least maybe I have seen it more times than they did. Like they went with the more regular, like subtle sense making. But yeah, chick at the Bojangles the other day, bro. The women around her were moving to make sure that I could see it. And I'm like, bro, I'm gonna make sure that she knows that I'm not looking at her. I'm gonna completely make sure that every single one of y'all in here know that that's the bullshit, and I'm not even one of those type. You know what I mean?
You different, bro.
I literally
You
like
different, bro.
I
Well, look at
did-
the Red Sea part for me. Oh, I'm looking, bro. I'm looking.
bro. I made sure to let her know. And then crazy thing, I seen her
Rails up
again
there
at the
like
mall. I seen her again at the mall
Talking
later
to him with his
that night.
head up. I'm like, sure she knows.
And here go Johnny. I'm gonna stay beside him.
No, I don't give a fuck nothing about that shit.
Yeah, but
Speaking of validation, I heard that we hit 1,000.
I think
A
Ty's
thou
got
wow.
something for us.
Hey, Taj, what you got for us?
So taking it back, what was it? It's been a couple months now since we
Game
had
night.
Game night.
About a month.
It's been a month. Oh, that's crazy. I feel like it's been so much longer. Okay, so there was a clip that was posted, and we're gonna let you guys hear it. But before we play it, the post, the reel actually has over 1,000 views. So
Did a thou wow.
yes, the comment section has been completely split in disarray. People are just losing their minds over this statement. But we're gonna play it so you guys can listen to it again. You said that if you don't care about him, you wouldn't care if he cheated. But if you cared about him, it would be an issue. Why would you be in a relationship if you didn't care?
Because I'm getting myself together to leave. If I'm not there at that point, let's say if I'm with a man, I'm living with him, and he taking care of all this, I gotta put all my coins, I gotta put my ducks in a row. So if I'm staying with you while you doing that shit, that means I gotta put my ducks in a row so I can take the fuck out.
You see how quick she was with it?
I think that's the jump cut.
But no, she was also quick though. She was also on it. I remember it. Because I'm getting my
And the crazy thing is, I don't think people listen at all to anything. I think they just hear one thing and just go strictly off of that. But pretty much what she was saying is if she's with a guy and she knows that he's cheating, she's getting herself together to leave him. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like if someone disrespects you or does something dirty to you, they can't then control how you react with that information. So if she's like, yo, you disrespected me, you cheating on me, all right, cool. While you paying these bills, I'm going to stack up my money so that I can leave you.
Yeah, and then the thing
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because if she stays with him, he might continue to cheat. He's probably using her just to be there because he might not want to be with the girl he cheating on her with. But he wants like a thing at home, so he might just keep her there. So either way it go, whether she's using him or he's using her, it's not a good situation to stay in.
I think that with two things. I think that number one, I think that people look at comments and just like to jump on whatever the common, you know what I mean? Whatever everybody else is saying, if they feel away, they just like to double down on what.
Niggas just comment off of what they feel at that moment.
And then, but the thing is, to me,
certain word triggered them.
She makes perfect sense. So let's say, think about this. If you were with somebody and y'all were together for a while and you're relying on that person financially and then they cheat on you, what sense does it make for you to leave right when it happens if you ain't got yourself together? So what, I'm just going to run and be homeless? Fuck sense that make? What sense that make? So I'm just going to make this emotional reaction and just be out on the street.
I'm gone.
Right.
Pack my bag. I'm out.
Leave with one bag. You got one damn bag.
But when you think about it,
so Johnny, hold on. So Johnny, you dating Shorty, and find out, go through that. Well, I ain't gonna. However you find out, she's cheating on him. She's cheating on you. You getting yourself together to leave?
Wait a minute. Time out. Let me paint the whole picture. Let me paint the whole picture.
Hey, he said you stay with her and everything.
Y'all stay together.
Let me paint
at her
the
house.
picture. Who paying? Am I paying the bill?
No. How about y'all both names on the lease?
Both names on the lease.
Yeah.
50-50.
But y'all busting down.
And I went through the phone and I found out she cheating.
Yeah.
That's tough. Somebody leaving though.
You gonna get yourself.
I don't know who is.
Oh no, it's gonna be you. They ain't no.
I don't know.
You know how many times that it's played out in the world? Your ass is leaving. She ain't going nowhere. I guarantee
I can't figure out.
She can get you up out of there easier than you can get her up out of there.
Well, in the state of North Carolina, if your name is on the lease or if you got mail coming to that residence, you cannot kick anybody
If
out.
I can't kick her out, I'm leaving.
Either one of y'all can get kicked.
And I'm gone.
Then
that's what normally happens.
But how long is it gonna take you? Like you gonna get yourself together to leave?
No, I keep.
So you keep a little cup.
I keep a little.
Keep a cup of quarter. You know what I'm talking about, Johnny? You gotta keep a cup of quarter.
Now wait a second.
No, I was about to say that's the exact reason men got side chicks, man.
No.
But hold on, let's put this at the space, at the spot where you have to make a hard decision. Because what you're saying,
hard decision. She's cheating on me, bro. You're
not allowing me to. Just allow me to set up the situation because of where she's speaking from is like at that like crossroads where she doesn't have currently enough money to leave, but I need to get myself together to leave, right? So let's say that you right now your account ain't get my own spot ready.
Okay.
And you just found out Are you gonna wait, get
And
yourself together?
It's gonna take you 60 days.
Are you gonna
60 days.
It's gonna take you 60 days.
Or you gonna take the L?
I
And you gonna
got,
figure
I
shit out.
got a mean pump fake, shorty. Hey, bro, I can hit the couch for a couple.
So you
I'm
just out
leaving.
regardless.
I might not like move out completely, but after I
You're not
find
gonna
out,
move out completely. What's
if
that mean?
if I need 60 days, if I ain't got my bread in order to move out immediately, and I ain't, like Rail said, it might take me 60 days to get the bread to move out. I'm at least going to stay somewhere for a couple of days. I'm not coming back home and just chilling there. Nah, like I might not move out immediately. Okay, yeah, but I'm not.
What is you keep going back saying that same statement? I might not move out immediately, but yeah. What does that mean?
But I'm going to be staying somewhere else for the next couple days at least.
So after the couple days, you're gonna go back to y'all
You wanna
place.
listen to
Yeah, she said you're gonna go back to y'all
Man,
house.
like Johnny keep using slippery language. I don't be understanding what you saying.
You still paying rent. Damn, that is
But
right.
yeah, nah, fuck that. Yeah, I'll be out on the house. I'll be slick. Fuck that. Like yeah.
So
Like
it's a breach of the
I
lease.
might stay there until the next rent due. But I ain't finna. Nah, like we can figure. Nah, I'm not staying in no.
So you're not staying long enough to get yourself together?
Nah, I'm out.
Okay.
I'm out.
That's why, fellas, when you in this conversation,
respect me more than me. You gonna like if you treat me, I'm out. Like we'll figure it out. I ain't scared. Like,
Nigga said he about to go into he about to drop that credit score off ego. I feel you.
no. See, the thing is that you hear what his first response was. He keep us something in the tuck. So, fellas, at the very minimum, fellas.
That's not the point of the
No,
that's
I'm
not
just-
at the space of the conversation. That's why I had to
But y'all just went all the way down that conversation, so I'm just going back to
Oh, so
what
you
he
about
was
to say,
saying.
hey fellas, keep a couple quarters.
What I'm saying is, first off, the first thing is don't move in. The second thing is, should you move in, you gotta keep a couple quarters in the tuck.
facts.
Period.
Just in case.
It's not negotiable. It's not negotiable, bro.
Cause you wanna be able to
Call
storm out
self-care.
and not turn around. Like when you storm out.
You ain't got a double back.
You storm out and then come back. Now you have to defeat the whole purpose of the storm out. So like you gotta have storm out money.
No, I agree with that. But
You gotta have storm
my
out
only
money.
caveat is that I think
Facts.
that's a person thing. Like that's the exact same advice I'm gonna give my daughter. Like have storm out money. So you ain't gotta allow a nigga to treat you any kind of way.
Right.
Yeah, the only
I'm
reason why I
also
say
gonna tell
this-
her get your name on that lease because ain't no nigga about to kick your ass out.
The only reason
Like,
I'm doing that-
actually have some real solidification to where you're staying and what you're doing, and have the fuck you money.
And even if you storm out,
I think that's
you
just
can
good
legally
advice
come
in
back.
general.
And then see, my thing is the only reason why I say it to men specifically because I know a lot of men that most of the guys I know at some point they move in with a woman and they've been put out before. So I'm not talking about the most dudes that I know have moved in with a woman at some point and got put out.
A lot of
So
dudes move in with women and spend all their money to move in and don't have that storm
and
out
don't
money.
be having no
They throw
storm
it
out.
all in the
And see, that's the
move-in.
thing. That's why I say it that way. 'Cause
That's call that fiscally irresponsible.
But I'm just saying, the thing is like most of the time, most women have had a dude move in with them before. I would say that's the thing. Most women have had a dude move in with them. At our age, a nigga done moved in before. You know what I mean? It's just a normal thing, and they done put his ass out before too. So, no, because it's gonna help her. I mean, it makes sense. You move in, then it's, you know what I mean? I get that takes 50% of my bills off, so it helps both of y'all. But I'm just saying, don't move in, number one. But if you do, keep, and everybody should do it. But I say it specifically to men because almost every man that I know has moved in and has been put out. So
And I
that's
think
why I say
to
that.
me, like that's really the better crux of the conversation is that it should be more so pushed towards guys. Get your shit together to where you shouldn't be moving in.
Exactly.
And I agree with that part of the conversation.
that's
to
fair.
where like
That's it.
if there's a moving part that's happening is that we're moving together in
Exactly.
space. But to me, in general, I wouldn't want somebody to specifically have that leverage over me, where the idea is that it's only my name on the lease, and then I'm gonna bring that shit up every single time because of X, Y, and Z.
See, I'm a petty motherfucker. I'll leave just because of that. Like I'll walk out. I don't, you know, they ain't gonna hold nothing over my head. Like,
Well, yeah, if you're bringing that up, but,
you
I mean,
keep on
but
bringing that up.
I will say how a situation where I would like if in 3 months we about to go get a spot my lease is up, and I'm gonna move in for those 3 months. I ain't got a problem fucking being at a spot for 3 months because we're about to go somewhere. Like if we break up in 3 months and I already have my money aside
To
like,
move in, yeah,
like,
you
and I've already been doing this shit by myself. Like if we break up and that's cool, I'm just gonna go. You can get an apartment in 2 days.
You good to go.
I'm good to go. But yeah, that's my little piece. Shout out to Chrissy for starting that, stirring up that.
That's crazy.
She
that,
definitely stirred the pot with
conversation.
that one. And what she like, she don't like cats, she like dogs. That was the one that had me weak, bro. That was the one that had me weak. I was go chime in, but I was like, nah, they hold
they held it down.
Yeah, I was like, they got it.
Chrissy and Jay Mills was in the comments
appreciate
attacking people.
Hey, but y'all go check out the IG. That's D2B Fair Show. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what y'all think about the conversations. Follow us on Facebook at D2B Fair Show. Follow us on YouTube at D2B Fair Show. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification button. And right up there in that corner right there. I am your host, Johnny P.
Over here, real.
It's Q.
And we out.